He also serves on the Oklahoma Civil Rights Commission Advisory Board and the Oklahoma City Arts Commission Board and the Lynn Institute Board of Directors. Michael was named 2013 Educator of the Year by Perry Publishing and Broadcasting. As a community organizer, Michael has administered literacy, leadership, and mentor programs. He continues to be successful at integrating divergent opinions, dispelling misconceptions, and mitigating a rising conflicts when it comes to community building. Michael is a skilled strategist, helping local leaders reach a consensus regardless of their leadership positions. In his spare time, Michael enjoys spending time with his family, reading and writing, and exploring the outdoors of Oklahoma. Please help me welcome our keynote speaker, Michael Owens.
Good afternoon.
It's an honor to be here today to share a few words with you. I'd like to thank, first of all, Coalition, not only for the honor of speaking, but also for the great work that they have done and they continue to do. I was fortunate enough, on the radio the other day with Milton, so I heard the history of how this event unfolded over time, and I'm so thankful for that sort of dedication, tenacity, the will to ensure that this celebration continues. When we look around the country and we see other cities not continuing this practice. So, Coalition, I say thank you. We are indebted. It is a necessity to keep Dr. King's legacy alive. I start by saying we are in difficult times in our country. And I'm not going to be long, but I'm going to be thorough, if I could possibly be. But we are in difficult times, difficult moments, and I don't think it takes a genius to figure that out. You can simply turn on the evening news and you will know that we are facing, in some regard, insurmountable challenges. But we're reminded of a great legacy. We're reminded of a great leader. And so our theme today is to honor and celebrate in work. I believe we have come together to honor and celebrate Dr. King for 4 specific reasons. Number one is out of tradition. It's simply the right thing to do, right? He was a man that was cut down in the prime of his existence for advocating for equality and equal opportunity for all. We come together because it is symbolic, because it reminds us of the cost, of the sacrifice, the dedication in which it takes to change the moral direction of the world. In the tilting of the axis of the social consciousness of American society in the direction toward brotherhood, sisterhood, justice, and accountability. We come because it is reflective. It allows for each of us to glance deep within our boundaries of our character, our hearts, and our soul as it relates to how we view the other. And last is relevancy. It is relevant because many of the challenges that were faced in that era are at the forefront of the American experience. However, it would be a faux pas on my part not to pay tribute to the historical record quasi but true citizenship. Throughout the ages, the denial of such God-given rights, such human rights have led to sit-ins and marches and legal battles, and in some cases, outright revolt. You see, the American experience, or the American experiment, is a complex one. Birth in slavery, nurture in servitude, and in many cases maintained by the social, economic, and political isolation of the least among us. Well, I don't want to speak against the progress that we've made or seek to overlook the greatness of our great nation. But I want to talk about those hidden things that still face our community, our state, and our nation. Dr. King said we are faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. There is an invisible book of life that faithfully records our vigilance or our neglect. I'm amazed that we have made some of the greatest advances in modern medicine. People are living longer. We've made the greatest advances in technology. We live in a global society, a 24-hour news cycle, and we're inundated with knowledge and information. And a familiar phrase of the world's lexicon now is to simply Google it. Where in times past I would have to use the rotary dial to call you or request a face-to-face meeting. We've made all of these advances, and if I'm popular enough, I can have thousands of people following me on Twitter, watching my every move and my every thought. But yet, in the way that we interact with one another, on the sociological level, where the road rubber meets the road, where we make things happen, where we move things forward, where we become better as a people, we are still so archaic in our thinking and in our interaction. Now, whether you agree or not, there are a number of Americans that believe that their lives matter less than the dominant culture. You see, on this level, we are truly living in two societies, the have and the have-nots, the rich and the poor, the neglected and the privileged. Dr. King said in 1968 that to white America, the life of the Negro is insignificant and meaningless. Whether you believe it or not, the signs, the t-shirts, and the posters that say Black Life Matters speaks to a historical disappointment and pain for many minorities. But you see, the pundits have easily dismissed this as un-American. They quote the loss of black life by justifying the use of legal force with some sort of police procedure. If this is true, it's of no comfort to a grieving parent or to a broken community. And in several cases, social media has demonized these brown and black boys and went as far as to say or imply that they deserve it. This is unwise. I suggest we seek to understand this phenomenon and change the trajectory of such deadly encounters. I'm not going to be much longer, so please be patient with me. We are fortunate to be in Oklahoma, though I mean that. I just don't say that. For Oklahoma has not experienced the riots or the deep-seated racial tensions that we witness across the airways of this country. But yet, we too have our challenges. Within our midst, we have the unemployed. You heard Councilman Pettis, 15% 50%. Within our midst, we have the unemployed, the uninsured, the fatherless, the homeless, a growing minority prison population, in a sense of fatalism that has fallen upon too many of us. Still today, we are confronted with classism, ageism, sexism, genderism, and racism. And most programs designated to uplift the least among us, get this, folks, is called socialism. Right. If we can glean anything from this modern-day civil rights movement, it must be the idea that we are in this struggle together. Our differences must not divide us. They must join us. They must bring us together. We must celebrate our diversity. But yet, I'm amazed. There are some among us who cling to this philosophy of separatism. Dr. King said, Negroes must shun the very narrow-mindedness that in others have so long been the source of our afflictions. He goes on to say that corporation of Negroes and white based on solid grounds of honest consciousness and proper self-interest can continue to grow in scope and influence. In other words, we need each other. We are joined by history, knitted together by our victories and our defeats. We are two sides of the American coin, and our value is only found in our wholeness, not in our division. Any other narrative expounded or written is counterfeit, in my opinion. Again, our theme is to honor, celebrate, and work. If you ever took a real look at Dr. King, a real honest, unadulterated look at his life, it was a life that was full of struggle. It was a burden that few of us have the courage to carry. It was a life oftentimes standing in the face of some of the most horrific possible outcomes that one could ever dream of. And even in his moments of despair, he found the strength to move on. You see, we have not arrived. We have not made it to that point where we are all free, if I can say that. We not, if the litmus test for freedom is we're not in chains any longer, then I would say yes, we are free. But if the litmus test looks at things like educational attainment, access to health care, economic development in the community, I would say that we have a long, long, long way to go. Right. We must continue this work that was started so long ago. There is much to be done. Our task is not for the faint of heart. In fact, the feeble and the weak must step aside. The strong must rise up and lead us into a new dimension of cooperation, love, and destiny. We must move beyond complacency and competency from a position of fear to intentional action. You see, our country needs an example. And I suggest to you today that Oklahoma can be that example. An example of inclusion. Oklahoma can lead the nation. Some of you might think that's being quite naive. I beg to differ. One man shook the whole world up. How can we not bind together to change it? You see, we are known in Oklahoma for our outstanding athletic achievements, and There is much work to do. We must be intentional. We must make a real effort, a concerted effort to accept everyone regardless of their race, their gender, their socioeconomic status. We must accept them and value them. For this will honor King's dream. Otherwise, folks leave the 35th, brother. We have met in vain. I don't want to do that. I'm tired. I'll be honest with you, I'm tired.
Amen.
I'm tired of fighting the same battles that were fought a decade ago. We need to move beyond that. And it takes all of us to come together in unity, black, white, Asian, Latino. All of us must come together as one to solve these problems and to move this country forward. You see, we must repair our relationships with our law enforcement. We must heal our churches. No longer can Sunday morning be the most segregated day of the week.
Yes, sir.
Furthermore, we must honor the true sense of religious freedom. And those among us who choose no faith, they must receive the same respect for their individual beliefs. Because if you truly believe in God, it is God who has given us the free will to choose. But see, I caution you, and I'm not going to be much longer, I caution you, this will not happen without great leadership. Matter of fact, I plead with our leaders and our lawmakers today, make decisions and make laws that benefit us all and uplift the least among us. You see, Dr. King left us with an example of sacrificial leadership. The kind of leadership, by example, the kind of leadership that stands when nobody else will. The kind of leadership that is willing to lose it all. Get this, lose it all for just a chance to heal a dying nation. Just a chance. Mahatma Gandhi said, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." I challenge us today to create what I call the Oklahoma experience. Let it be known to the 2,000 people that are moving to our city every day that you are welcome. Your gifts and your talents, that we purpose to celebrate you and uplift you, for this too must be part of the quote-unquote Oklahoma standard. From the Panhandle to Bartlesville and on down to Durant, let the inhabitants realize that they are valued. From this day forward, let love be our mantra. Wouldn't this be wonderful if the nation viewed us in this way? If people said, I can go to Oklahoma because that is a place where I can truly be accepted and be me. Let our nation follow the Oklahoma experience into a new dawn, folks. Let the tears of social injustice and the heartache of social ostracism be turned into a celebration of togetherness and social prosperity. Because history will speak of us. One day, the scribe will reach down deep into the archives of our time. She'll turn the pages of the books of Milton. And what will she find? Will she find that in Oklahoma, there was a pivotal moment that changed everything? That we were moving in one direction and we started moving in the next. And that black and white Oklahomans came together for a cause that would bring justice and harmony and dignity to all of us. History will speak of us. we just met and we talked and we clapped and we cheered. And we put on programs and forums and we did all those things. But the least among us continue to suffer. I say if we want to honor and celebrate Dr. King, we must do better. We must change the way that we are interacting with each other. We must move beyond the rhetoric into some type of intentional action and be pragmatic about changing our world. I ask you to come along with me as we try to create